Welcome, everybody. Thank you for attending this live event and also a special live podcast recording. I have a podcast at the Doctor's Journey, Navigating Life and Medicine with Healthcare Innovation and Coaching. And I'm your host, Miguel Villagra. I'm the founder of Adoctorsjourney. That is a platform that has a coaching program based upon a positive intelligence, and we promote a mental fitness for healthcare innovators, physicians, and entrepreneurs alike. In this podcast, we share the journey of and highlight actually the work of physicians and non-physicians entrepreneurs that are driving the change in the future of our healthcare. At A Doctor's Journey, we believe that through healthcare innovation is how we're going to revamp and reshape the future of our healthcare system that is long due for renewal. And I'm very excited to talk today about artificial intelligence. At A Doctor's Journey, my team has been focused on practical applications of artificial intelligence for both either personal growth and efficiency, but specifically for our businesses. But today, I'm very excited to have an amazing speaker in the topic of AI in healthcare. I've been trying to work with him with quite some time. We have been on coinciding events like the Innovator MD with my good friend Uli Chetipali, and I'm super excited to have him here today. Harvey Castro is, I would say, one of the leading voices on artificial intelligence in the entire country, and he has been named the first author on ChatGPT in 2020. He is the advisor in healthcare for the government of Singapore and the Texas Medical Association for Artificial Intelligence. And I'm most definitely excited to have him here and share part of his journey and see and talk about how artificial intelligence can be shaping the future, either for individuals, small teams, or larger healthcare system. First, I want to welcome Harvey. Harvey, how are you doing today?
Thanks for having me, and thanks for all your patience. We've been going back and forth trying to coordinate our schedules, and we finally made it happen. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's an amazing day. I think that your background is outstanding, and I might ask you a little bit to share part of your journey. And by the way, for those that have not either read any of Harvey's book or has not seen his TED Talk, which was amazing, I highly encourage any of you that want to learn about AI in the future to either get any of those resources, even though I will let him share some of this in the future. So we're going to start with a little bit of data. The first that I want to mention is that at the Doctor's Journey, we are in the idea and the mantra of personal, professional, and business growth. And our main focus is help individual and small team to exponentially grow on their businesses, either personal, professional, and in general. And we always ponder this question, why 2x when you can increase your business productivity 10x? And we follow different frameworks, including positive intelligence, which is I'm personally a positive intelligence coach, and I'm glad to have been able to share my expertise with some small digital health companies, some of which I'm also an advisor. Don Sullivan said that if you want to change or improve your present, you need to think bigger for the future. And I think that one of the ways that we can leverage that grow in the future is going to be through technology. And I think artificial intelligence has most definitely been one of the factors that we all have seen how is shaping the way we actually live our current lives, and also particularly in healthcare. I was recently going through my executive MBA, and we were talking with some experts in AI that are based in Singapore, and when they were just talking about how the big players like Salesforce, etc., how they are adopting artificial intelligence into the workflow. I'm fascinated by the topic of agentic AI, which I will get Harvey to touch base in the future, but definitely all those changes are here to stay. For those that are just getting started, I'm hoping this event will spark the curiosity. Definitely for those that are already on it, hopefully we can explore opportunities to leverage this technology either in your own personal life and or businesses. I'm fascinated about finances as not only investor, but somebody that has skin in the game in some artificial intelligence driven companies, and the market growth is just outstanding. 19.27 billion in 2023 are related to artificial intelligence. There is an investment surge around AI, healthcare, specifically healthcare startups, who had attracted 60 billion in investment over the past decade. But look at this fascinating data that half of that 30 billion has invested just over the past 3 years. And adoption rates still, you can see that there is a lot of opportunities, but in the first quarter of 2024, 29% of healthcare organizations were using some sort of generative AI tools, and another 43% are already in testing phases. So you see that there is a massive growth around artificial intelligence. I have an online course that I designed for physicians interested in digital health with Dr. Uli Chatipale, and we always talk about the trade-off or investing in some of these new startups, because as the reward could be high, but the risks are also quite high. And the best example I can give you is about scribe-driven applications. There is over 100 of those in the market, and I know most of which probably won't succeed. But it's a lot of competition between each other. There is a lot of challenge in the implementation and onboarding of this technology on the frontline provider side. And in my particular case, besides my ventures as a coach, a founder of Adoctorsjourney, I'm still practice hospital medicine. I'm internal medicine by training, and I do hospital medicine. And we've been trying to implement different tools, particularly to improve the workflow through Scribe AI features. There are multiple applications and benefits. And at this point, I will get Harvey to maybe weigh in a little bit on this part, which is his best area of expertise and son of genius, but diagnostic, personalized medicine, patient monitoring. I'm very interested in operational efficiency, again, as a small business owner, but also large healthcare system. The global market in AI is set to expand from $32 billion in 2024 up to $208 billion by 2030, a 520% increase. So that's definitely massive growth. I don't know if at this point, with what I have shared so far, Harvey, I want to hear any of your thoughts on all of these. I will let you first introduce yourself, because I am amazed to have you here with us, and share a little bit of your journey and jump into application and benefit.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you guys for coming. I appreciate your time. My name is Dr. Harvey Castro. I want to give you a quick background. I've been blessed in that I'm able to combine my 20 years of ER experience. During those 20 years, I was able to create my own emergency room, my own healthcare system. I started 8 emergency rooms. One of them was a micro hospital. Also, we added an urgent care. Had my own billing company, staffing company, marketing company, grew the company to about 400 employees. And the reason I state that is that not just being an ER doctor, having the C-suite experience, seeing what it is to have managed physicians, nurses, a healthcare system, all of that. And then in the middle of that, COVID hit. It was good training for me. Fast forward, I've always had this entrepreneur brain, and being able to think outside the box, create products, create ideas. And like you mentioned, I was the first person in the world to write a book on ChatGPT and healthcare back in 2022. Gave me a really interesting spin on the two. Then the last is being able to put in basically my MD degree, which was 1, 2, the entrepreneur side, and then 3, just the AI side, putting it all together has really given me an asset to be able to think a certain way and create, because I see the different areas. Now, pivoting to these questions, earlier he showed you a slide on how we can be more efficient. Why be a 2x? Why not go 10x? At the end of the day, I want you to realize that, and this is, I say this all the time, it's simple as saying it's AI plus human. It's going to beat the best AI or the best human. It's together. Think about it. Your years of clinical gestalt, your understanding of medicine, it's the art of medicine combined now with AI, you're going to have an amazing result. So let's dissect this slide. Number 1, he's talking about diagnostic and personalized medicine. Let me just stop right there. Personalized medicine, obviously, is a big deal. As you guys know, we went through med school, we go through residency, we go through all this information, but that's the key. There's so much information. If this information is exponential and we're growing so quickly, to give you a quick example, back in the 1950s, medical data would double every 50 years. Depending what you're reading, there's arguments that it's doubling now between 30 and 72 days. No matter what, we can all agree this information is growing. Now, here's where AI comes in. If we're able to use AI to dissect that out, to create, and we'll talk about agents later, but create a form of an AI to give me information and say I'm an ER doctor and I want the latest and greatest, then I have it set to give me that. If I add that now to, let's talk about personalized medicine, man, I'm able to take, for example, your entire genome, put it into a database, use AI to leverage, and literally if an article came out today, these two databases are talking, and then me, the human, say, oh, wow, Miss Smith has X gene, and I need to call her about Y because literally this just came out. That kind of information, you and I we don't have the time and imagination to picture all of that. There's just too much information. But if we leverage both, we're going to get a better product. Let me keep going here. He talks about patient monitoring. One of the biggest things is we need to be proactive in medicine. We can't be reactive. As an ER doctor, that's what I do. I'm reacting to everything that's been done. But if I have physicians and healthcare professionals and the population working together to be proactive, man, now I can help people before they even come to the ER. Let me give you a quick example. I like using this one. Congestive heart failure. As we all know, there's a portion that if we eat too much salt, too much water intake, our body, our heart can't take that. But one simple measure is our watches, which are our wearables. Put an example of a scale. If the scale shows that it has more water weight, I can have a standing order that says, hey, take your Lasix, increase it, because I know that if I don't, you're going to be in the hospital and you're going to be there a long time. So that's a really good example how we could use patient monitoring, use AI systems to make sure that we correlate the two so that we're preventing deaths, decreasing emergencies, and that's ultimately the goal. The last one is the operational efficiency on this slide. And think about it. Now, I'm wearing the CEO hat. At one point, when I had all these emergency rooms, my payroll was about $2 million a month. That means every month I had to come up with $2 million to keep my doors open. The more efficient, the quicker I can send out the insurance bills, the quicker I can get paid, the quicker I can make those efficiencies. Now I'm more likely to keep my doors open. Now I'm less likely to have to go to the bank and take a loan. That's just one simple example how using AI could help me in such an efficient way.
So that the question that I will have on that, there's so much to unpack on that part, but I always feel like, Harvey, there is a gap between the new technology and the frontline provider. And when you talk about larger healthcare systems, some of which are already in that stats that they're already implementing testing or going live with some sort of AI-driven applications. But when we talk a more smaller healthcare system, where or how do you see the implementation in those areas, like more suburban or even rural areas or in the healthcare system of the United States?
Yeah, good question. At the end of the day, our rate limiting step is, especially if you're a small business owner owning your facility or having less resources, is your resource. Case in point, we all have heard of the Apple Vision Pro. These things are expensive. If you look at who has them, surgery is using them. If you look at why isn't the ER not using them, my argument is this is what we're about to say here is resources. If I don't have the resources to pay for this, then I'm not going to be able to implement this. Pretty black and white. Neurosurgeons, they have more of an increased budget. They're able to afford this. The hospital system is paying for this. As an ER doctor, I can tell you multiple administration says the ER loses money for us. So we can't spend money on that department as much as we could in others. That's the plain truth. So to answer your question, I would say, let's look at the low-hanging fruit. What can help you? What is out there so that we can implement easier? There's two things going on. Number one, there's literally thousands of vendors that are startups trying to get your business. That's good and bad. Good because it helps drive price down because there's so much competition. Bad because some of these startups have zero healthcare professionals working with them, meaning they're developing these products, but they don't have you in the loop. They don't have a patient, they don't have a doctor, and they're just building thinking, oh, this is what a doctor would want. But the best person to tell you is going to be that patient and you, which is a doctor. And so then when you're looking at these different devices, there's a whole slew of things to look at. But there's a couple of things you need to look at. Number one, not to go into the weeds, but there's something called data drift that basically means as you're using the model, it starts drifting and starts creating a different response than you originally intended it to be. And so you need to keep an eye on this so that it's still doing what you're needing to do. Number two, depending on the product, depending what it is, obviously you need to make sure it goes with your EMR. And then some of this may need some IT backing. And that that may be an inhibitor for you to implement X, Y, and Z because you don't have an IT department, or if you don't have the resources for this project. So there's multiple layers here. So my answer to this at the end of the day would be, let's create a community. Let's work together. That way we can see what you're using, I'm using, and we're contacting and working to see about that word of mouth. Hey, how was vendor A? Was he good? Was she bad? What did they do? Would they have good tech support? That way we can totally optimize these things. And I know, again, there's literally thousands of startups out there, so it's quite difficult.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I was given the example I was alluding in the past and previously about the number of scribe AI startups, right? There are plenty on the market right now. It sometimes can get really even. You're right. It's great to have options. You have more leverage on negotiation, but also can get a little bit messy and confused about which one is the one that you might be the one that want to implement. I think at the end of the day, though, you also need two things, right? You need physicians to be involved in some, if not all, of this company, and that's one of the message we always have, because it's been well proven that at least startups in healthcare, in the early stages, the more physicians they get involved, the more chances of they're going to be successful in the near future. So definitely that creates opportunity for those physicians that are interested on getting involved, which, by the way, for those that are still thinking about getting started to grasp the concept of AI in healthcare, you definitely see this as a great opportunity. And the second thing I will say is that you have no choice, because this is coming sooner rather than later. But at the same time, I want to touch base with you, Harvey. One of the challenge that I have seen going back to the gap between new technology and how they're going to be accessible to frontline providers that are taking care of patients is that sometimes there is also a pushback from physicians. Physicians who are not quite necessarily, or brain hasn't been wired for changes. And we're going through a dramatic change in our world and society. I truly believe that one of the things that is very important, in my experience so far, implementing some of this technology, going back to the example of AI Scribe, is a good onboarding, right? Understanding what are the benefits from the provider side of adopting this technology. And I don't know if you can elaborate a little bit more about that understanding about what am I gaining by adopting this technology, right? And if you have a few examples that you can share.
Yeah, going to the core of it, as a healthcare system, obviously we're very traditional. We are cautiously the way we adapt. To your point, to understand the culture, we need to make sure that when we're implementing these things, that it's aligning with the culture. When I meet with startups, I'm often telling them, do not show them the limousine, show them the Ford car, because the culture may not be ready for all of that. Case in point, when ChatGPT 3.5 came out, everybody was like, wow, this is amazing. But all along, they already had 4 and the next version, they already had it in their systems. Why didn't they start at the top? My speculation is, we weren't culturally ready for all of that. It took us a system, some time. People didn't even know it existed. Fast forward, it's been 2 years now. People are understanding, adapting, and now we're starting to see all these toys that are out there, I call them. To give you specific examples, oh gosh, I'm going blank on some of the company names, but simple stuff that I have seen that has been amazing. Back in the day when we had Watson Oncology AI that didn't work out, basically IBM had a moonshot idea of, can we create a treatment plan for AI? So if a patient came in, the AI could say, hey, this person has this type of cancer, clinical trials are at this location, this is the best match, or this is the best medication. And they really were hoping that this AI would do it. Unfortunately, it did not. Now, they moved on from what they have. And now I've seen other startups that are doing a pretty good job, that now a person can come in and the algorithm will tell them what's the latest medicine, and it's all through the oncologist. But my point is to be able to tell you what treatment, what is the latest, what just came out, cutting edge, and if they want to try certain clinical trials, where they're going on. That's a huge example. To your point on the clinical scribes, yes, tons of vendors. And what I'm interested in seeing now is the flip. We're talking about scribes for doctors, but I want doctors and healthcare professionals to be aware that the new wave that we're starting to see is some wearables that patients will wear that will record the entire conversation, that will transcribe all of this. And so be aware that from a legal point of view, everything is being recorded, and it's really tough. And so I want you to be aware that your patients are transcribing all of this. Now, there's two sides of this debate. On one side, the medical legal is an issue, but let's focus on the patient, which we're all doctors and we are already. The minute you give a patient bad news, the minute you say, look, unfortunately, you have cancer, like I said in my TED Talk, everything stops. But if you can use AI, you can use these scribes that we're talking about, either on the doctor side or patient. When the patient has access to this, now it's the weekend, 2 a.m, and that patient's thinking, oh my gosh, I have cancer. Now they can listen to the transcription, they can go over it, and it has the information in there that if you allow, you could use AI to help explain it in a 5th grade level so the patients, oh wait, I understand. And the second thing is, on concepts they can use AI to really dissect that out so they can understand that concept.
Fantastic. I want to touch base on the trade-off, the part of legal and privacy. But before we do that, now that you just brought up the multi-language barrier that has been broken by AI, the opportunities to translate to multiple language, but the other side of the coin, and I think you have at some point presented the National Hispanic Medical Association, which is an organization that I am part of, and we always discuss about cultural competent care. To give you an example, in particularly for Latino and Latina community, right? And we need more providers that can care for our community, particularly those that might not have the capabilities even to interact in English and things like that. So now the question will be though, it's not the same having a translator than having a physician that speak the same language, right? Sometimes there are a lot of cultural difference and things that are hard to mirror or mimic, right? But on the flip side, I see that AI has been getting so good to offer some sort of degree of even scary, compassionate sort of interaction, right? I remember you did mention on applications where they can record the interaction of the physicians, and even based upon facial expressions, they can detect and give feedbacks about how your interaction is going, what emotional state are we showing, and things like that. So I'm curious, where do you see this going as far as not only basic translating of concept, but rather even some degree of cultural background that can offer a message that the patients might acquire in a way that they understand better?
Yeah, great question. So many things come to mind. 2 things. Number one, this literally just came out. I have no stock. These are Meta glasses. I can put them on. You can speak in Spanish, and then it'll hear you, and then it'll tell me what you're saying in Spanish and English in my ear, and then I can say it in English, and it'll tell me in Spanish, and then I repeat it, and then I can talk to you in Spanish. Simple idea. Literally, they just released the update for early developers, which I am, so this is out. It should be in the general public. The second thing I want to say about this, it's only going to get better, but for patients that are not taking their medicine, let's pretend these are prescription or they don't need a prescription, they're wearing them. Now, if it's 12 o'clock, it could say, hey, it's time for your medicine, and it'll remind you. Amazing. Let's talk about the question that you just asked me during my TED Talk. And one of the things that I focus on is this cultural awareness. And I truly think we can leverage AI to help us be more sensitive to the different cultures. Growing up in New York City, I grew up with tons of different cultures, and I remember going to my best friends and having Chinese New Year's and trying Indian food and trying Jamaican food. It was just fun, but I was very culturally aware of everything, and I grew in that environment. And so when I speak to patients and when I speak to those particular cultures, I feel like I can speak their language in the sense that I understand their culture and I can give examples in their culture, and I align better with them. And as a result, they A, like me more, B, I feel like I'm giving them better medicine because I'm speaking literally their cultural language. Now, using AI to help me understand that culture, taking an extra 2 minutes to say, I have a patient from this part of the world and I want to give examples that are specific to that culture and aligns, would be a better medicine in my opinion, because now you're speaking the language. I'll give you a quick example, and this is a dumb example, but I'll just do it. I'm in Dallas, Texas. Everybody here in Dallas, Texas, and I say generalizing here, they love football. Here, football is the thing. If I give an example in medicine and say, oh my gosh, it's just like football is, and I'm speaking to someone outside of the United States, chances are they're going to think I'm talking about soccer. And the analogy may not make any sense. And so my point is this: leveraging AI, to your point, to be that cultural physician for them. And yes, you're right. Just simple translation doesn't simply translate. We need to add more. And that's what we're talking about, that cultural medicine.
Yeah, I do want to ask you though, before we move to more like in the business side of AI applications, you did mention the legal aspect of it, but I'm also concerned about the privacy aspect of it, right? There is a lot of back and forth about sharing private health information, right? And where is it going? Who has access to it, and how safe it is with all these concerns about cyber attacks, etc. So, what would be your take on it? The risk going to the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? What will be the trade-off that are behind implementing all these technologies?
Number one, if you are going to implement AI, there's a lot of things that need to be done in the background, especially obviously with HIPAA concerns and issues. Number one, we need to make sure that we're using a HIPAA compliant server, so that way when we are using AI, it's going through the right channels. Number two, when we are using AI, we want to make sure that our patient information and data is kept private. It's not training the algorithm. There's ways of doing that. Third, because this is so important, we need to make sure that we understand AI. And let me explain. If I'm in some other place outside of the United States, let's just say I'm in Africa, and I ask AI to help me with a particular patient, the fact is a strong likelihood that the data that was trained on it is specific for the US. In other words, it may not apply for where you are in the world. Now, to that example, the AI that you're using here in the United States and how it's being used, it may not have the data in it that represents the population that you serve. So keep in mind that when you're looking at these things, that it's doing the thing that you're wanting, and it's just not giving you answers for a different population that it never trained on the population that you're using it for.
Fantastic. And before we move to the next section that I want to touch base with you, I just want to ask you, because you are not only advising companies or medical association inside but outside of United States, how do you see or compare the AI development United States versus other countries, either Europe, Asia, and even Latin America?
Good question. I think at the end of the day, we pretty much have access to everybody's AI, except with the asterisk of China. There's some competitive things that they're not sharing with China, but I feel like the rest of the world pretty much has the same access. It may not cost the same to every country, but the access is there. Case in point, ChatGPT is here, the access is there. But because of the GDPR, let's call it the HIPAA of Europe, the way it's delivered, some of the features cannot be shown there, cannot be done, so they don't have a full access to it. How does this relate to what we're talking about? At the end of the day, it depends on what the end goal is. If your goal is to do X, you may not need a limousine. You may be able to get through with a bicycle. My point is this: all these AI models are getting better and better. And whatever you have seen, whatever thoughts you have, I'm going to challenge you and say, did you look at the best model? Did you use the free edition of ChatGPT? Did you use the premium edition of ChatGPT? Which flavor? Because if I'm going to grade a car on how fast it is, and I take a Ford car versus a Lamborghini, obviously the Lamborghini is always going to win. So make sure that when you make your statement and assessment, that you're doing it based on the latest model. Number two, make sure that you learn to use AI, because you may ask it and ask it wrong. And I know that sounds weird, but it's all about how you prompt it, how you ask it. And so keep that in mind. So I just wanted to shed some light there.
Yeah, no, that was fantastic. Now, I want to take a detour into the business world. You are a physician entrepreneur, have multiple ventures in your journey as well. And one of the things that I'm very excited about is how we can improve efficiency and how we can leverage this technology for our small businesses. As I was preparing for our chat, I was collecting some data. This data is in the United States. And some of the data that I found is that 58% of businesses are using some sort of AI for efficiency. Those are not quite necessarily the strongest data, but at least was interesting, right? To see that rapidly increase into the world and entrepreneurship and business, right? 48% of small businesses has adopted some sort of AI tool in the past year, and 93% find it that is actually quite cost effective for them. Some of the examples I have, and I'll ask you what others you might have: customer service automation, marketing and sales, and predictive analytics, and In my world, in the coaching world, I've been able to even create custom GPTs when they came out that are filled up with all the information and training I have about all the framework I use for my coaching practice and had available to some of my clients. And it becomes like a 24/7 coach for them in their business and life. Those are one of the examples I can give you that has been completely dramatically changed and helped me offload some of the time that I can spend in other things, this aspect of my business. So I want to see if you can shed some light in regards of this part of more like small businesses applications of AI beyond healthcare, but rather in your own efficiency, what other tools you might have or recommend for it.
Yeah, so several things come to mind. Number one, back in March of 2023, I created a product called the GPT podcast. And the skinny is this: I could take any blog that was out there, any information, I clone my voice, I clone my business partner's voice, and we would basically take that blog, and within less than 5 minutes, we'd have an audible file, a transcription of us talking about that blog as if we had read a study or anything. And then we would have the image, and within 5 minutes we would have it on Spotify. The reason I mention it is this would make me efficient. I could put this on my website. I could use the latest article on XYZ and put it for my patients to listen, or a blog. And I was able to do it quickly, and it made me very efficient and helpful. The second thing I did is when I was cloning my voice, I put that on my website. So if you had any questions, I've written over 18 books. I have it all under a database, and it's there. Have my cloned voice, and instead of you having to ask me, you literally just have a talk with me, and it's there. And then I also, the real engine is in the chat function. It's all in the chat. And then for my cultural patients, I've had people from outside the United States call me from South America. I created the bot in Spanish, so then it does the same thing in Spanish, making me more efficient, be able to customize. Currently, I'm working with the company, and what we're creating is basically a way to interview patients and get their information, put it into an AI, put it into a form, and then put that into the medical record. And it's a way of extracting information for different types of patients. But the point is this: we're leveraging AI to be more efficient. We're able to maximize what we're doing by using AI. The other thing for marketing and sales, I get so many emails. We created a product that's called max.email. Big picture, all it is, as you start getting emails, you control the power of the email, and it lets you take a look at the email. I'll give you a real example. One of my buddies, he sends me what I call book emails. They're like 10 pages long, 20 attachments, all this stuff. And I look at them and I'm like, there's no way I'm going to read this. So I put a little star and I put it in a folder. I'm going to read it later. Now what I do is I forward it to my company, that what I mentioned, AImax.email, that you can send an email now to. And what it does, I have the list here. It does a summary, key points, action items, decision matrix, like Occam's razor, the 80-20 rule, but it does it within seconds. And then now I can take those 10 pages and dissect it, and I can see exactly. And then it also does an image, like a mind map. We're all doctors and we love images. So there's a mind map of that email. And these are simple things that I'm using for AI that is making me so more efficient.
Yeah, I think that one of the great opportunities of this massive change in AI is, to some extent, there is a very fascinating, I'm going to use this word, like there is a democratization of this technology where anyone have access to it, even very small businesses, although the larger corporations are using it in different ways, but even anyone at any level can leverage this technology as long as they're willing to learn. And one of the things we talk at the Adoctorsjourney, and sometimes when we go about coaching, we're in this era that beyond credentialings, beyond our curriculum acumen of training as far as medical school, fellowship, we are in an era of skill set, right? And I think that people that has the skill set to understand, has the problem solving nature and critical thinking, how to implement these technologies and leverage their use, it creates basically a new area where a lot of physicians that might be missing opportunities. And I guess that's the part where I do a lot of career coaching, some of physicians that are interested to getting into entrepreneurship, some of which digital health or telemedicine, which I do as well. And I want to hear your thoughts about where do you see more opportunities of involvement for physicians. First and foremost, I would say anyone can reshape themselves, right? And get off the physician persona and entertain new ventures. But in general, specifically AI, where do you see the opportunities for those that are getting started or they are already doing some of these applications?
Yeah, I really think it's all about education. I think at the end of the day, the more you understand AI, the more you can pivot, and that pivot creates an opportunity for you. Case in point, your internal medicine, your brain is wired a certain way, you're looking at certain parts of medicine, that's your bread and butter. Now with AI, you're creating all these things. You're creating GPTs, you're creating different workflows, you're able to maximize the two. To my point earlier, you're creating human plus AI together, and you're creating something more than just you as a human or just the AI alone. The opportunities really lie in this disruption that we're in. All these things are going on. You have the expertise. You add AI, you're dangerous now. You're going to be a good dangerous in that you can create things. On that, tomorrow we're going to launch a website, and it's basically AI Insider, and I can give you the link, but the skinny is this. The way to keep learning is to have a community, and we're going to be going over all the AI tools. We're going to have an AI agent. We're going to make sure that community is growing, and we're going to hit medicine hard, but we're going to hit general businesses and general AI, so that together we're creating a strong community. And so I'm really excited. And I see your next slide here talking about agentic. One of the things that we did to AI Max email is you can literally, let's pretend you're a mother or father or trying to buy a family car and you have a family of 6. You can type an email instead of using ChatGPT. You can do it now via email, and you basically send an email saying, hey, I need an SUV. I don't want to spend more than $80,000 a year for this car, and I want to make sure it's focused on safety. You simply send that. It'll go through all of the websites. It'll go through key information. It'll compile a list, and then the agent will send you back an email of what you're asking for, and it'll show you the 5 or 6 websites that it went through to find that information, and there's no ads. That's a good example how agentic AI that is going to hit pretty hard in all the different industries. That's just one of many examples of how it's going to be used. And that'll be big here in 2025.
Wow, that is fantastic. And actually, as we're getting close to the end, this has been an amazing conversation. I want to actually pick up your brain on future prediction, right? We're gonna get the crystal ball, right, and see what the future is ahead of us. I'm very curious about your thoughts on agentic AI, which are already here, and larger systems are already looking for. The best example I can give is Salesforce, right? So, but what do you see beyond that 2030 and the future? What are your predictions, Harvey, as far as the future of AI?
Yeah, by the year 2030, I'm going to pull out different glasses here. We will have this bulky thing of the Apple Vision Pro, and it'll be as simple as these glasses. And in these glasses, the future, we will have our AI. In this one particularly, I could wear them, and it has a teleprompter on the screen that you cannot see. Right now it's on, and I know you can't see it. And I can ask it what time it is. I can ask questions. I can have this entire script here. And then if there was some question that's tough, it would hear it, analyze it, and tell me what to say on the screen. Things like this will be common in the near future. The next step, which I know people don't like when I say this, is we will have robots. We will have robots in the hospital. We will have robots in homes by the year 2030. Elon Musk will be creating all his Tesla cars next year. A large majority of it will be robots making other robots and be making this. He's claiming it'll be around $40,000. How will that change? 2 things, multiple things, but let me give you 2 quick examples. Number 1, you have a nurse, has a bad back. As we know, by the year 2030, we're going to have about 10 million healthcare workers worldwide shortage. We need something. That something to me will be a robot. How does that robot come into play? It'll cost less than $40,000. That nurse that I mentioned earlier, she has a bad back, or he has a bad back. He wants to be retired. I bring the robot in. The robot now can help lift the patient, can help save him or her back, can now help get medications, take the patients on walks, be able to be the eyes. But then for us physicians and PAs and others, this part is going to be great. I predict that the eyes of the robot will do everything that ChatGPT can do now. The algorithms that you see, this feed that's coming through, it'll hear and know that patient has pre-diabetics. Because of the voice, it will know. The skin, the video feed, the robot will be able to tell the doctor, hey, you forgot to check the ears. This is part of the differential diagnosis. We need to look into this. It'll be able to pull all the medical record, every information from a data, and in real time tell the doctor as a physician assistant, helping the doctor. All of that will be here. My prediction is by the year 2026, we'll start hearing about it. But by the year 2030, we will have this.
Wow, that is mind-blowing to say the least, and definitely. So this has been a great conversation. It's hard not to find you, but for anyone out there that doesn't know where to find you, Harvey, can you just tell us what are the best way to know about your work?
Yeah, if you can, I'd be honored if you could come to my website. It's pretty simple. It's Harvey, Castro, MD, as in medicaldoctor.com. When you go on there, you'll have a bot that you can talk with me and clone voice. You'll laugh. The second place is go to any major social media, type in Harvey Castro, MD, and that is literally my tag on all of it, and you'll find me. The last thing I want to say is if you want, go on Amazon, type in Harvey Castro, and you'll see all my different books. My wife loves crime, so I've been writing some crime books, and you'll giggle, but it's crime and AI. I highly encourage you to come to my AI forum group that I have. And then the last is I'm pulling up the book right here. I'm going to be speaking at the Consumer Electronics Show here in a couple of weeks. I'm really honored that I'll be at CES. It's probably one of the biggest world stages that I've ever spoken at. And the book that we're releasing that week is going to be called 2030, A Blueprint for Humanity's Exponential Leap. And I have two other authors on that. So I'm really excited because that's not self-published. This is going to be a major publisher, and it'll be worldwide.
Fantastic. So thank you so much for being with us. I think that the message that I probably will convey based upon our conversation is two things. Fear sometimes stops us from moving forward. And there is a lot of fear in general for the public, specifically the healthcare community, about how much this type of technology will change and disrupt or the way we practice. And it's already doing it, right? But I think it's a time to be uplift and empower and actually seize the opportunities for all this massive change. And that would be the first invitation that I have for most folks. And the second thing I will say is, to me, I see this like an enhancement rather than a replacement tool. And that's crucial for folks to understand. But because we always need that brain, that human brain, with the critical thinking, with the problem solving, and ultimately is the one that will guide and hopefully determine the best applications to improve our workflow. And number three, I will say that one of the biggest suggestion I have for any physicians right now nowadays is that one of the most important skill that we need to develop is being ready for change and being nimble and ready to pivot. And I know in entrepreneurship, that's the everyday life of an entrepreneur, but physicians actually were not quite there to entertain all those sort of rapid changes. And it's hard to keep up with all these, but I don't know if you can share some last thoughts about that, what I just said, Harvey.
Yes, of course. The key to success is to make sure, like he said, we stay nimble and ready to pivot. The more you can pivot, the more you can combine that human expertise of what you've done, your personality with AI, it's going to be key. I highly encourage you to teach your kids, grandkids, how to use AI. And I encourage you to personally use it every day. And I know you're like, I don't have time. Make the time. Because the more you understand it, the more it's like riding a bike. Eventually, you don't need the handlebars because you can just ride the bike without holding it. Use AI every day. The more you use it, the more familiar you are with it, you'll know its capacity, and then you'll be able to combine how you see things with AI. And trust me, you will be able to get on board with the exponential changes that are going on, the disruption that's going around in healthcare and in other industries, and you will be a leader if you want it.
Fantastic. I love it. So I just want people out there to connect with our platform at the Adoctorsjourney. We offer different resources, some of which actually are AI driven. We have a list of empowering and very useful prompts that my team has developed, and that had helped us automate a lot of our workflow. Harvey did mention some of which, in particularly customer services, relationship, marketing, content creation. So we've been able to leverage technology and actually massively exponentially grow. And I invite anyone that is interested to visit our website at adoctorsjourney.com. And I wish you guys have an amazing rest of your day. And I'm really blessed to Harvey's being joined on the stage for this event. Thank you so much to everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Take care.